And here we are on a Tuesday night. I think it's Tuesday, January 19th. Oh, wait, no. It's Monday, isn't it? Or is it Tuesday? No, it's Tuesday. I had to double check. My days have all started melting together since most of you know what my last week has been like. And let me just say, too, that this is the Intrepid radio program. You're watching my show. I'm Scotty Roberts. I am the host of the show, and we broadcast normally on Odyssey Radio Network. That's ODYSY1.com. We're not broadcasting there tonight, however, because I'm just going live to my YouTube audience. And more because when I do a show over on Odyssey, I'm not set up to go live on Odyssey. And so I have to pre-record those shows. And when I pre-record a show, I need to make sure I'm fitting into certain time segments. And, I've got the 25 minutes as my first segment and 28.5 minutes is the second segment. And when I pre-record those, as I was telling the owner of the station, Russ, today, I said, I just can't commit to pre-recording a show today right now because my brain is not quite unaddled enough to get there. And what I mean by that is if I know I have a strict time I have to meet, I might run out of steam with the way things have been going with my health in the last week. And because that's one of the lingering things with this COVID thing right now. So as many of you know, and some of you may not have known, I have COVID. And these are my nerd glasses. Shut up, Iowa. These are my cool glasses. Here, before I go into that COVID thing, the last brand new spanking pair of glasses I got was in 2017. I got them the week after I had my open heart surgery. And those things have just worn down to a nub. So I needed a new pair, so I got two new pair. This is the other pair. Boom. There it is. Is that nerdy enough for you, Iowa? Nerd glasses. So I got my new glasses, and I like them. They help me read better. So when I'm looking at the chat room, I don't have to squint. But I can't wear them all the time either. They just wear on me because I can only see the screen perfectly through the bifocal. In the top, it's a little blurry. But when I'm reading through the bifocal, I can see everything. So last Monday was when I got sick. I explained some of this the other day. I think I came on for a few minutes and told everybody why I was missing so many shows last week. And it started with just a bombastic headache and my sinuses blowing up. But my sinuses didn't really hurt. It didn't feel like a sinus infection. But you could hear it in my voice and all of that. So all that happened. And then the same day, a week ago, Monday, I lost all my sense of taste. And no, that doesn't mean that I started going for trashier women than my wife. Sorry to all trashy women out there. That was a bad joke. But no, my taste buds, they say that was one of the things that would go. And I noticed that right away on Monday is that I had no taste buds. And of course, in the back of my head was, is this COVID? Did I pick up COVID somewhere? And and I ended up sleeping all day. And after about 2-3 days of that, I said, I think, honey, I may have picked up COVID somewhere. And what also came with all that, by the way, was dizziness. Or it's not even dizziness. It was disorientation, equilibrium disorientation. Equilibrial disorientation? Meaning I could go in the kitchen to get something to drink and turn, and my whole world would spin. And it's vertigo, something like vertigo, I suppose. And I suppose that was from being all clogged up in the head. But I had no fever. I ran no temperature. And so I went until about Thursday before I finally called in, talked to my doc. He said, yeah, go get tested. And Sure enough, that's when they diagnosed it. And yep, you got COVID. And by then, I was already feeling like I was coming out of it. And so the only lingering effect over the weekend had been being absolutely overly tired. And that's what I had all last week. I just slept all last week. And so as of today, I didn't even have a nappy time today. And I feel all right. Little dizziness every now and then, still a little stuffy. I started getting my taste buds back yesterday. Rainey came home after our young daughter, Ellery, who you all know. We have a new set of knives, kitchen knives. And Rainey was prepping a chicken dumpling soup, and she was cutting up potatoes and cutting up carrots. And Ellery wants to help. The 6-year-old, she always wants to jump in. I want to help. She had one of the knives and she shink and just sliced her finger open. And she had to get 3 stitches in that last night. But she came back home after the stitches and she brought cheeseburgers and even one for me. I said, oh my God, I hope I can taste that. And sure enough, glory of all glories, I could taste the cheeseburger. So I was very happy about that. Now they're not back in full, it's still kind of lame on some things, but I can taste spice. We went out we had to go pick up my glasses today. Now, I have COVID, so I have to stay in. So Rennie runs in and gets my glasses. And then we stopped at Chipotle right next door and picked up, you dial it in. We picked up our food, ate it in the car. So we had a nice little picnic, Rainey and I, in the 16 degrees, but sunshiny weather out in the car in the parking lot with the heater going, listening to political news. And so I'm doing all right. And let me say hey to guys. Hey, Steve. Good to see you. I just saw your name run by my face. And Doug Stack, good to see you. And Master Finn. And Audrey, nice to see you as well. And Crystal, I see your name being mentioned. There you are, Crystal MacArthur. Good to see you. And thank you, ma'am. I am doing much better. And Iowa X, I didn't eat any Chinese food this week, Iowa. I don't know yet. We'll have to see. But I know what you're getting at. Yeah, I can eat Chinese food. All the people who invented this virus over in Wuhan, they didn't invent Chinese food. Chinese people want me eating Chinese food. They're the innocent artists in the background. The egg foo young makers of the world had nothing to do with COVID. And let's see. Hope I'm not missing anybody. Roger Rabbit, Carly and Kinsey, they both had terrible sinus infections. Same time frame you had the China virus. Boom. It's the Chinese virus. You ever see the Hodge twins? It's the Chinese virus because it comes from China. Anyway, so there you go. And there's the reason I went live tonight is I don't know how long I'll maintain before my brain goes, overload, because one of the things that went along with everything else was the loss of cognitive thinking process. It's not that I couldn't think, it's that thinking was just taxing. I would go on social media, on Facebook, and I would post something and somebody would want to argue with me about something. And I'm kind of like, yeah, no, you're wrong. And, well, prove to me your points. No, I don't have to. I said nothing. There was nothing to give. Even though my brain was working, I couldn't articulate. Articulating became almost physically taxing. It would wear me down. And, excuse me. And so yeah, there's some things I didn't get. I didn't get a high fever. I didn't get a cough. This is the cough I've always had. I didn't get congested. It's all up here in my face and my head. So now I had very encouraging news from my son's doctor yesterday because my son was having a couple of symptoms, but he's doing all right. He lost his taste. He had a sinus infection, but he's functioning normally. And so he called his doc and had a video conference yesterday, and I was there, and I said, well, I have COVID, so we're not going to send him to school. We can't send him to school till after the 1st of February. And the doc said, asked how I was doing. My son's pediatrician. And I said, well, I'm doing all right. I said, it's day 8. This was yesterday. And I said, I'm doing okay. And he said, well, remember, he says, not to be the bringer of bad news. He says, but day 8 through 10 can be very twisted days for people with COVID. He said, you can feel one thing for the first 8 days, and up to about 10 days in, he says, everything can flip-flop and you get hit with a whole new set of whammy symptoms. So, knock on wood, I don't have those coming in. One thing I did notice is my cough has gotten more in my throat. So I feel a little more like that stuff. So there's information for you. If you get COVID, now it's kind of like, oh, that's great. That's good news. So you can have COVID and feel like you're getting better. But if you haven't made it to day 10 yet, you still might have more things that take place. So I just heard my door open, so I didn't know who was walking in. And I did, Matthew. I've had it for the last 9 days. And hi.
Mom cut my hair shorter.
I see that. You can show everybody. There, Rowan had her hair cut short. Boom. Shorter.
I want it shorter, though.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
You don't have to have it too short.
I want it shorter.
First you wanted bangs. You got bangs. No, first you wanted colored. You got that. Then you wanted bangs, and you got that. Now you want it shorter.
I want it shorter. See,
okay.
It's only this short. It needs to be this
Doug
short.
says, hey, row.
It needs to be this
row,
short.
row your boat. She loves that, by the way.
No, I don't.
So, okay. See ya. Scram, Sam.
I'm going to ask Mom to cut it shorter.
Don't ask Mom to cut it too short for you. Mom's not super comfortable with cutting your hair. Rainey doesn't know how to cut hair. Neither do I, really. We just do it sometimes because it's easier. And hey, Beth, how you doing? And let's see, who else said something in there? Matthew, I'm glad I'm getting better too. Now, I don't want to make a political statement out of it, and I don't want to, and I say anything I'm going to say here, I'm knocking on wood a little bit, and it comes with a caveat, is that I have always been one about this whole COVID thing. When it first came out, my fear was being piqued. This is a new pandemic. What are we supposed to expect from this? And everybody was a little nervous about it. And this is way back in the beginning. We're talking January, February. And I remember hearing that the high susceptibility categories, over 60, which I was 59, diabetic, which I am, heart disease, which I have. I guess that's what that means, heart disease. I've had a heart attack, I've had open heart surgery, and I've had 2 heart attacks since then, both mild compared to the first one, which was mild by itself, frankly, because I didn't know I was having a heart attack. But I've got chronic heart disease. And so those 3 things are like this trifecta of susceptibility. And so very early on, I was a little nervous about things. I mean, when they called for us to sequester at home, you know what? So we did. Kids' school closed on March 1st because of COVID. And so everybody was home for all of March and April and May. And then it finally started getting nice enough for kids to go outside. You know, when this first started, it was really tough because you had all the kids inside during the winter. which is what it's going to be for the next 2 weeks around here because we all have to be quarantined because I had COVID. So, yeah, the lockdown was torture, that's for sure. And so, hey, Siani, good to see you. Thank you. And so we were all nervous. I was nervous. I wasn't like, ooh, shaking in my boots nervous. I was like, and I had my questions, and you've heard me express those. Rocky and I had our questions doing Rocky's show. And I didn't know how far to take some of the information they were giving us, especially when it started growing into what almost seemed like a political push coinciding with the medical facts we're being told. And it started to become, if you were a believer that COVID was going to kill you, you were Democrat. If you were a believer that COVID wasn't to be worried about, you were a conservative, a liberal and conservative, let's call it. And I'm overgeneralizing, but that's the divide we started to see take place. And I wasn't an anti-masker because I wore masks plenty. But I was not a believer in going overboard with anything. And I saw that there was information on both sides. So as time went on, I was a little less nervous about contracting COVID. But still, because of my high susceptibility factors, I wondered, am I going to get this or not? And we are not staunch anti-vaxxers in this home, but I have enough conspiratorial blood in me that I have questions about the vaccine. We'll leave that at that. You may agree with that or disagree with that. I don't care. So, but I did have a flu shot this year. I was in to see my doc about something else about 4 months ago. My doc said, hey, winter's coming. Let's get you a flu shot. I'm like, okay. Bing, flu shot. I usually got one of those every year anyway. Pretty tried and true. Tested. So I didn't get the flu this year. I can tell you that. So here I am, high susceptibility, and I finally come down with COVID last Monday. And I'm thinking, where did I contract this? Because we all know, and they tell you, you wear a mask to make sure that you don't pass it on to someone else. It's not so much to protect you, it's so that you don't pass your germs if you're carrying it. Because we all know, unless you buy a $150 mask, you aren't going to have the kind of mask that's going to keep out viral infections. And unless you're wearing goggles to make sure you don't get the viral infection picked up through your eye. So masks are fairly ineffective, even though they encourage you to. And you know what? I wash my hands several times a day. I still got COVID. I wore a mask most of the time when I was out. I still got COVID. Where did I pick it up? We wondered, did one of our kids maybe carry it home from school? And does my son have it? No. And he's just not showing all the heavy symptoms because he's a kid? We don't know. Yeah, nobody got the flu in this last season. You're absolutely right, Iowa. So I don't even have my mic queued up here. I hope it's picking up well. There we go. My kids get in here and they push and move everything around. So, I wasn't paying attention to where my mic was. Hang on. Boom. But, so all that to say is that I contracted it. Don't know where I contracted it. I don't go out all that much. You know, Rainey and I went to the hotel in November, stuff like that. But in the last couple of weeks, can't think of anywhere I've really gone. My son and I went to the Goodwill and went shopping, looking at the toy section and the games and the stuff like that and books. But we keep our masks on in there. So, where do you get it? Where did I pick it up? Did I pick it up a long time ago and I just carried it and it finally hit me? So, even with my high susceptibility factors, it took almost a year for me to be infected by the thing that we've been quarantining and sequestering and wearing masks and washing hands and not touching our faces about for the last nearly a year. And then I get it. And in the midst of all the news, the United States, I just saw it just before I came in here. 400,000 deaths have been reached now in the United States. 300 million worldwide or something like that. And I'm like, with all these people dying, there's obviously, maybe that shows you how densely populated we are, because I've known of 2 deaths from COVID. One was a person that it took place last February. And they weren't even sure. It might have been a complication. He already had some lung problems of some kind. Young guy, 32 years old. And then a friend of mine in Egypt. Egypt got him, middle-aged woman, got hit pretty hard in Egypt, and she passed away from COVID. That was back in April, I think it was. Those are the only people I know who passed away from COVID. But I could give you the names of 50 people I know who've had COVID that I know either peripherally or know personally and have survived it. They say for all this doom and gloom and fear we've been fed about COVID is probably good on one hand, that hand that says, be careful, or maybe you would get it, maybe it'd be worse if we weren't careful. But on the other hand, it's we have a 99.98% survival rate with COVID. So again, this is where I said, knock on wood. I'm probably not out of the woods yet, but I hope you can tell, even by the way I'm presenting myself tonight, I don't feel too bad. I don't feel anything like I felt this time a week ago. I was pretty much slept through last week and was non-functioning. And so now the big question for me remains, how bad can I get this? Do I have certain elements to my DNA or my physiological makeup that are different from somebody else's? Somebody said blood type can factor in as to the severity or the strain or the kind of effect it will have on you. Am I of a blood type or a different DNA or whatever that doesn't react as adversely to it? So with a 99.98% survival rate, that's a stronger survival rate than cancer. Yet we haven't had the kinds of reactions to cancer that we have to COVID. And of course, cancer is not communicable, as far as we know, in any way, shape, or form. You can't kiss somebody who has cancer and run the risk of getting cancer. So who knows? I don't know what's going on. And, everybody's got somebody they've lost. Some people I know have lost several people to COVID. And that's heart-wrenching. Why the disparity in numbers between individuals? So, Beth Kirkham, if there were chips involved, I want Doritos. I don't have no idea what you're talking about, but that works. Siani, good to see you. Sorry you have to go back to work. Unless it's good work, your own work. So, and sorry, folks, I've been kind of ignoring the chat room. Not totally. I see it kind of going by, but I'm just talking. And Steve Clark, I never heard how your sister, because I was gone all last week and out all last week, how your sister's doing. I hope she's done all right. Let's see. Thank you, Rockin' Rhonda. Looking a little better, feeling a little better. Thank you. I feel a little blotchy. My skin's a little blotchy, which is weird. Or maybe I just think it is. Maybe I look this way all the time. So, what bioweapon will they buy for the 2022 elections? That is a good question, Iowa. What bioweapon are they going to use to win the next set of elections? So, I've got some things on that too. I did want to talk about a couple of interesting things, but there was something I saw, and I want to make mention of this. Let me. I'm going to move a couple of things around on my screen here, so bear with me, so I can look at something and still see you guys talking. There we go. There we go. All right. Give that a shot. How about that? Boom. All right. Beth, I can't type at all these days. Maybe that's why I'm having problems typing. So I saw this article today, and this is an article where, Hillary Clinton's got a radio show of her own, podcast. It's called The Both of Us or something. You and Me Both is the name of her. I've never listened to it, but I saw this news article on it. How Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi were together on this show, Hillary's show this last weekend, and they floated a conspiracy theory. A conspiracy theory. Isn't that the thing that the left constantly castigates the right for doing? Trump supporters. Conspiracy theory when they thought that there was election fraud. Or whatever it may be. But they floated their own conspiracy theory that Trump and Vladimir Putin worked together to plan the Capitol riot. Can you believe that? Let that sink in for a second. Here's somebody that was the Secretary of State, was married to a 2-term president, ran for president, lost to Donald Trump, has done nothing but caterwaul and bellyache ever since, yet condemns the Trump supporters for bellyaching about Trump losing. There's pot calling the kettle black. But she's got her conspiracy theory. So it's Hillary Clinton and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi are floating an unsubstantiated conspiracy theory that President Trump worked with Russian President Vladimir Putin to coordinate the riot at the U.S. Capitol and are calling for a commission to unearth facts. They're calling for a commission to unearth the facts that Trump and Putin orchestrated the riot at the Capitol. Can you get two more moronic idiots together on a topic? And wasn't it Hillary Clinton who we all know already that she was behind the purchasing of the Steele dossier, which based the whole Russian collusion thing, and then they find the Steele dossier to be false. So this whole thing, you start listening to this and you start shaking your head right away. But these two have come up with this theory. Now, during a bonus episode of Clinton's podcast, You and Me Both, which came out yesterday, not over the weekend, the January 6th storming of the Capitol, they took turns theorizing Putin's potential role in the events of the storming of the Capitol. And I hope historically we'll find out who he's beholden to, who pulls his strings, Clinton said, first raising the notion. I'd love to see Trump's phone records to see whether he was talking to Putin the day that the insurgents invaded our capital, end quote. But we know it's not just him, but his enablers, meaning not just Putin, but his enablers, his accomplices, his cult members have the same disregard for democracy. And then she asked Pelosi, do you think we need a 9/11 type commission to investigate and report everything that they can pull together and explain what happened? And Pelosi responded, I do. And Pelosi went on, to your point of who he's beholden to, as I've said over and over, as I said to him in that picture with my blue suit as I was leaving, what I was saying to him as I was pointing rudely at him, with you, Mr. President, all roads lead to Putin. I don't know what Putin has on him politically, financially, or personally, but what happened last week was a gift to Putin because Putin wants to undermine democracy in our country and throughout the world. And these people, unbeknownst to him, maybe are Putin puppets. They were doing Putin's business when they did that at the incitement of an erection. The incitement of an erection. That's my wife's job. So sorry for that. That was free. So they were doing Putin's business when they did that at the incitement of an insurrection by the President of the United States, Pelosi added. So here's the first thing I got to say. What a couple of dopes on ropes. Seriously, if they actually believe this, they are utter fucking idiots. It's either done for political theater or they're really stupid people. That's my take on that. I'm not as smart as they are. I haven't been in Congress for 50 years, nor have I ever been married to a president. But I can tell you that's pretty dumb. It doesn't take any of those things to be as dumb as this theory is. So, and of course, it's already been looked at. Just the brief of it is that the insurrection started 15 minutes before Trump was even finished speaking. And then what they are saying were 500,000 people poured it over toward the Capitol. And insurrection, we did this a couple of weeks ago. You got to define what an insurrection is. You have to define what an insurgent is, what an insurgency is. What happened at the Capitol was none of those things. You had mad people storming the Capitol who believed they didn't have a voice being heard. You had what? Some people have said there were 5,000 of them storming the Capitol. Well, I think there was only about 100 that got inside the Capitol. At the same time, you had what? 3 people were killed. 3 too many, yes. You know, we can go with the common talk of the day. Well, that's 3 too many people. Well, we know that already. So, God damn it, shut up. We already know that. But 3 people died. 3 people dying are not the result of an insurrection. You'd have seen a lot more. So, they don't take a dictator's right to free speech. Yeah, exactly, Matt. Anarchists infiltrated both sides, unrest in order to divide us further. I believe that. You know, of all people, I looked at something Bill Maher said. Now, you all know who Bill Maher is? A liberal talk show host, very liberal. He's like the voice of reason of the liberals, you could say. He's the public voice. And he has sometimes come across, and he's very liberal. He'll tell you that, and he stands for a lot of liberal causes. But he tells his audience on live TV to hate 74 million Trump voters because 5,000 people rioted is kind of stupid. And he described what he thinks is the tragedy of the modern Republican voter. And I think this is worth hearing. Comedian Bill Maher, he's often the voice of reason for those on the liberal left, told his audience on Friday's episode of his HBO show Real Time with Bill Maher to not hate the 74 million people who voted for President Donald Trump because about 5,000 people claiming to support the president stormed the Capitol on January 6th. So in his profane monologue, and it was transcribed for Real Clear Politics, the liberal Biden-supporting Maher discussed the tragedy of Trump voters and what he thinks are the underlying causes of people turning to violence when the system fails them. He said, Bill Maher said, let's not confuse 5,000 people with 74 million. Yes, even supporting the insurrection in spirit is, well, deplorable. But there's a difference between holding illiberal beliefs and acting violently on them. At least that's what they always told me about Islamic terrorism. And full stop there for a second. And that's all we heard after 9/11. Just because there's Islamic terrorists doesn't mean we hate all Muslims, right? Bill Maher went on and said, I keep wrestling on this show with the hard question of how do Americans, all of us, learn to share a country with assholes that you can't stand? This is his words, his take on things. He says, I preach and still do that you can hate Trump, but not all the people who like him. And as counterintuitive as it may seem, you can like something run by an asshole without being one yourself. Now, there's a lot of truth to that. I don't think Trump's an asshole. Maybe he is in business. You know, there aren't many billionaires that probably were not assholes in business. But Maher told the story of this 14-year Air Force veteran that we've talked about on this show, Ashley Babbitt, a woman who was fatally shot by the Capitol Police after participating in the riot. And Babbitt is a former Obama-Biden voter. She was a strong Trump supporter who owned a business in San Diego, California. She faced economic hardship after being forced to take out a short-term loan with a 169% interest rate to keep her business open. Get that in your mind for a minute. Any of you who work with numbers at all, take out a mortgage. What's your interest rate on your mortgage? 8%, 4%, 1% if you're lucky. 169% interest rate to keep her business open in California. Now, Maher showed sympathy for Babbitt, who he believes was justifiably angry, but at the wrong people. She is the tragedy of the modern Republican voter personified, he said. Pissed off at the greed and the corruption that, yes, has squeezed the middle class hard, but always coming up with the wrong answer to who's doing the most of the squeezing. Now, addressing the Capitol rioters, Maher said that they were storming the wrong building. The feet up shouldn't have been on Pelosi's desk. It should have been on Trump's tanning bed. This is Maher's opinion. You thought Trump was going to be your bull in the china shop? Yeah, he was, but you were the china. Should Ashley Babbitt have applied better logic in seeking that her real problem in life wasn't pedophile Democrats or Antifa, and that people like Elizabeth Warren were actually the ones who were at least trying to do something about predatory lending and economic exploitation? I disagree with them on this, of course, but not everyone can watch MSNBC all day, he said. She had other priorities, like fighting overseas, he said. He got that right. Then he took a swipe at the California Democrats. And Maher said he criticized the woke politics and the characterizing of his state as overwhelmed by regulations and indifference to the hardships of working people. Maybe since all politics is local, he said, all she knew was she lives in a state that cares more about her toxic whiteness than her toxic brokenness. And damn straight if that is not the fact. And that the state that is run entirely by Democrats, yeah, they didn't stop anyone from charging her 169% interest on a loan for her business either. It shouldn't be that surprising that America is all fed up of with unhappy people. That America is full of fed up, unhappy people who just want to break shit, he continued. Trump sure didn't drain any swamps, but when it comes to graft and corruption and everybody wetting his beak, California, yeah, that's a swamp too. We can't put up a housing unit for the homeless for less than $500,000 or build a rail line connecting the state for less than $200 million a mile. And that's the end of what is in this article that Bill Maher had to say in talking about her. And he's right about something. You can't blame 74 million people for what, I don't think it was 5,000 that stormed the Capitol, but for a 0.1% of the people that were in attendance at the Trump rally. 0.1% were the people, 0.01% was the number of people that would have stormed the Capitol if it were 5,000. And that's a high number. Yep. Spot on, Matt. They'll be replaced by technology because it's cheaper. Regarding the minimum wage, I think you're probably talking about there. So, you've got this conspiracy theory that's been floated by Pelosi and Hillary Clinton. I think you've also got where do I want to go with this? See, this is my brain is clicking. I'm trying to get it on track where I wanted it to go. I wanted to address the issue, and this is really switching topics, but all this was supposed to segue into Beth, I agree with you. No privately owned business owes anyone a soapbox. I agree. But if you're talking about social media, the big three, Silicon Valley, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, they don't owe nobody nothing. But when you start denying people the right to say something freely in what you have labeled yourself and launched yourself as an open platform, and when the numbers of your members affect political elections, when there are billions, literally billions of users on Facebook, how many people do you think who voted this last year are not on social media of any kind? If you had 150 million people vote out of the billions of people that are users on Facebook, when you have a platform and you enjoy the ownership of that platform, protected by the laws of the nation, where you enjoy constitutional rights, is it consistent for you to say, I enjoy these rights under the Constitution, but I will not extend those rights to the users of my platform? I can make a rule and say, you can't call people fucktards in here. You can't solicit sex in here. Any of that ever happen on Facebook? Yeah, every day. So you can have standards by which you operate. When your standards start to cross the line into denying political opinion in favor of only one political opinion, you should be required to, number one, state, we are a platform that exists only allowing this political ideology to be expressed. If you do not express this, you will not be welcome here and you need to go. You will be warned. It's not a strict First Amendment right. Because, yeah, they're a private corporation. But can a private corporation break other amendments of the Constitution? Can private corporations act in ways that are unconstitutional when their owners live under the Constitution's protections for their own lives, their own families? It's inconsistent. And then there's that issue of being a platform versus an editor and a publisher. And you've all heard this before. When Facebook started, it's a platform for people to express their ideas. You have to agree to terms. I get that. Privately owned company. But if you're going to promote yourself as a public entity, privately owned, of course, that allows people to express themselves and do whatever they'd like, only within certain guidelines, and yet the opinions expressed there can change the outcomes of elections, can affect the way people think about political ideology, you as the owner of that platform have to say, I need to back off of allowing any political talk, or I need to allow all political talk within the guidelines of treating people decently. You start trolling people, you start flaming people, old term, you start creating problems, abusing people verbally, you're gone. That's what a private company can do. They should not be able to tell you what you can and cannot say, what belief you can and cannot express. What if they said, you can express Shiite Muslim religion, you can express Shintoism, but you can't express Christianity or Judaism. They're a company. They're privately owned. They have the right to tell you that, right? Facebook's privately owned. If they say, hey, you can talk all you want about any religion except Christianity and Judaism, what do you think that would do? Would that be breaking somebody's personal, constitutionally protected rights? I think it would. Hey, Morgan Snow. Good to see you. You know, about that fascism thing, with all of this that's going on, it started with social media stuff. Now you got all the congressional caterwauling about conservatives shouldn't be allowed to say certain. You got who was it today? Steve Cohen, Democrat. You saw him. He's the kind of weird, porky looking dude. Sorry for no better expression than that, because he's kind of caricature looking. The guy who was eating the Kentucky Fried Chicken during the first impeachment hearing earlier in the year. And laughing about it. That dude, Steve Cohen, he said something today about how all the National Guard troops that are deployed in Washington, it's a known fact that most of them are white, horror of horrors, and that most of them, at least 75%, are known to be conservative voters and probably Trump supporters. He said, can we trust them in Washington, D.C. right now? So he promoted, I saw the interview like 3 times today in news clips. He said this. He now wants to push to have the Pentagon screen all soldiers for their political ideologies so they can be dismissed from duty if they supported Trump, who is an insurrectionist and a seditionist, according to Steve Cohen. Of course, Steve Cohen also thought he was a Russian colluder as well. And some people believe the earth is flat. You're right, Beth. And it looks like you've got a Congress and a U.S. government right now that is completely overrun by flat earthers. So I would agree with you. Yeah, AOC called for re-education camps. Re-education camps. Where did we hear those terms before in history? It's not a stretch. The thing that you are called, if you are a conservative thinker, is the thing that the people calling you that thing actually are. There was, remember Huey Long, who ran in 1935? He said, let me see if I get this straight in my mind, about fascism. He said that when fascism overtakes our government, the fascists will be comprised of the anti-fascists. Something like that. I got to look that quote up. Somebody can look that up. Huey Long said something about fascism. His quote about fascism from like 1932 or 1935. It says, when fascism overtakes your government, our government, the fascists are actually going to be the anti-fascists. It's something like that. It was maybe a little, the 43rd Louisiana governor. Yep, Doug. Doug, if you can find that quote, put it in here for me so I don't have to type and look for it. Yeah, that was the Hitler era. And so that's the scary thing about some of the things we're seeing right now. What you're seeing right now, the people calling for us to fight against the people they are labeling as fascists in the name of anti-fascism are actually the fascists. You take somebody's rights away, their right to free speech. If you deny one side of a political argument the right to express their argument, is that First Amendment supportive? Oh, but I can have the largest platform in the world that has the capability of manipulating an election. But I have the right, because I'm a private business owner, to tell you can't say that, because my political ideology is different. So that's a problem. That's when it becomes a free speech issue. Hi, Ellie. What you looking for?
The staple.
The stapler. If nobody took it off my desk, it should be where it always is.
Right there.
Which is right there. Boom. There you go. So, yeah, I didn't know you could be fired for your political views either. I mentioned the thing about Kohl's department stores and who else is it? Bed Bath and Beyond. Some of the corporations that are now removing MyPillow from their stock. Now, you could say, that's a business decision. Well timed. They're removing it because they don't like Mike Lindell's political stance. And it's coming at the same time as all the other pogroms being taken out against conservatives in the limelight. Followers and supporters of Trump. If you say those things are not linked, you aren't looking. And you aren't paying attention, or you're deliberately not looking. Vote with your feet and money, Iowa. Yep. I've heard a lot of people say, I wasn't especially impressed by MyPillow, but I think I'll go out and buy another one now. So, it's a color revolution, and it's pitted people against each other when our core values aren't too far off in the majority. Yep. I think for the most part, people don't disagree as much as our government is making us disagree. We may want a different guy for president. We may have different political ideologies, but for the most part, I think we all want the same thing. We want peace. We want safety. We want a country that is ours. And we don't want to live our lives by your leave. Don't need the government's permission to do shit. The government works for us. We're so deathly afraid of our government, especially when they have the power to tell you that because you're conservative or you voted for Trump, you should somehow be, the AOC said, be reprogrammed. How does she get voted into office? Same way Joe Biden got voted into office. How can Americans vote for somebody who expresses a belief? I don't care what political ideology, but if they say there's one political ideology that needs to be reprogrammed, that's one of the major political ideologies that operates in our country. How can you have a congresswoman say that and not feel the censure from her own constituency? Becomes more about what sides are guilty, says Matt Finn. Truth is it's the people versus the establishment that's giving us shit service and big expensive government programs. Damn, you're so right on there. That's why you came here, Morgan Snow. There it is. Thank you, Doug Stack. Howie Long said, or Huey Long, Howie Long, football player. Huey Long, politician. When fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped up in an American flag. Boom. I knew I was close. I was nowhere near that. I had the idea in my head. When fascism comes to America, it'll be wrapped up in the American flag. Yep. So that's what I got to talk about tonight. Can't get too deep. I'm a little passionate about things. I have some things that are strongly bothering me out there in the way things are going right now. Joe Biden's being inaugurated tomorrow. I'm not going to waste my time watching it. He's got, did you know he has more U.S. troops in Washington, D.C. right now than have been deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan combined? Right now, tonight. What's he afraid of? Is there something we don't know about? Is there intel of some massive army moving on Washington, D.C. to prevent the non-public inauguration? The hidden, as he campaigned from his basement, unseen, is the way he'll be inaugurated, from his basement or some basement bunker. Yeah, me too, Morgan Snow. DC reminds me of a coup right now. Also, did you know, one little tidbit, and I don't have all the facts on this yet, but did you know that Joe Biden is not using the normal Secret Service to protect him as the president? They're hiring a private firm to be the Secret Service for Joe Biden. Not just for tomorrow. I'm talking about in general. The Secret Service will be set aside and a private firm has been hired that, to me, is about as close to a fascist state as you can get. You know why I say that? Because the Secret Service protects the President of the United States. It is owned, operated, run, paid by the American people. When a president hires a private service to do that instead, that service is loyal to the man who's paying them. Secret Service is loyal to the United States and protecting the President of the United States. A private Secret Service is the Secret Service of one man. They're not beholden to the nation. They're beholden to the man who pays their checks. That's disturbing. Look into that a little bit. And I'm just finishing up. No. Okay. Bye. Bye. I'm almost done. You're interrupting, especially with that. Bye. So, there you go. There's my daughter. Had something to say about she has something in her pants and she's not afraid to show it. I have no idea what she's singing about, and I don't think we need to even care about it. Yep, no, they're not loyal to Beth. I'm not sure what you meant there. Oh, to the U.S. Right, exactly. They're loyal to the person. They're a private army, small army, paid for. That's problematic. That is also another sign of fascist dictatorship, if you will. There, I said it. I'm not one to go way out and say, well, I believe Biden's a fascist dictator. Well, that's what they called Trump for 4 years. He was anything but. There were so many different things he could have done to prove their point home. It was just another bit of Saul Alinskyism. You make an attack against somebody, so they're sidetracked defending the attack as opposed to doing what they're supposed to be doing. Trump just brushed it all off. Screw you. It's not what it is. Bye. So, will they be wearing brown shirts? That's probably a good question. So, yeah, the Secret Service is provided for. I don't know if it's a constitutional amendment, but it's certainly provided for in our laws. The Secret Service works for the president, but they are owned and operated by the United States government. So, Black Hugo Boss suits? Maybe so, Iowa. Maybe so. Yeah, it'll be an interesting couple of years. See what's going to happen. So, I don't blame everything on Biden. You know, Beth, I would do the same thing, frankly. Why would I want to be the leader of a country and hire a bunch of people who didn't agree with me? Fuck them. Bye. You're fired. I do the same thing. Yes, I would reach across the aisle in legislation and trying to convince people and trying to win hearts and minds. But if you're working in my cabinet, you're working in my office, you better damn well be loyal to me as the guy in charge, or you're out. I believe that firmly. I'm not going to have anybody working in my office or on my administration that is behind my back wanting my downfall or working against my agenda. Hell yeah, I'm going to fire him. If you didn't, you'd be dumb. That's just the way it works. If that makes you a total ass, then I'd be a total ass as a president. Because you know what? I wouldn't care if you didn't like me. I would care if you weren't working with me. You'd be gone. And if that's a dictator, then we have different definitions of what a dictator is. You can be a voted, elected official, voted into office, and have control over your administration. And if you choose to fire several people on that administration until you get the people you want in place, that is not wrong. That's not dictatorial. My opinion. So, yeah, lots of leaks over the last 4 years. So, anyway, that's my take on it. Hey, Macabre. Haven't seen you for a while. That's how long it's been since you've been here. I've had this background for what, about 4 months now? I think. Something like that. Well, not quite that long. Maybe two to 3 months. Yeah, I just shifted the office around a bit and took some of the extra stuff off the walls and tried to clean it up a bit. Started putting it back together, and this is all the further I got. So, welcome. We're just about ready to call it a night. So, everyone, that's all we got for tonight. I'm out of juice. I want to thank you all for being here. Thanks for putting up with my slightly addled brain. If I have disagreed with you too much, don't take it to heart. Just go, hey, we have a right to disagree. If I were Facebook and you disagreed with me, you know what? I'd ban your ass. But I believe in the First Amendment and freedom of speech. And while I wholly own this program, I will not ban you from it if I disagree with the way you think. I am not like Facebook or YouTube or Twitter. So you go on and keep expressing what you want to. If you want to debate me while we're talking, we'll do it. You don't have to agree with me. And I appreciate the fact that you present your points of view. So that's all I got. Yeah, Matt could kill the chat at any time. He's got his finger on the button. And I fired a lot of people to get Matt in place. Oh, because I'm an ass for a boss. I work for myself, and I already know my boss is an ass. So, thank you, Roger. Yep. Iowa X, I could not have said it better. All you are going to see for the next few weeks is one big, huge, giant circle jerk from the media. Damn straight. Hate to put it in those terms for sensitive ears, but there it is. Thank you, Matt. It's good to be on the mend. And hopefully just getting better. So, and hopefully all my mental faculties will start reconnecting. I feel like it's a weird game of whatever online. All the little pieces have to fit and they keep sliding out of place. So, thank you, Doug. And Beth. I know I am an even keel sailor. I get along. You're right, Matthew. Media can be hypnotic. And that's what they're doing right now. You want to see, I talked with a woman who's a friend of mine. And she was insisting today that all Trump did was lie through this whole thing about the election. I said, I would tend to disagree with you. I said, I don't think he lied about anything. I said, I think Trump is Trump, though. I said, I think he's a true believer in what he believed. And if anyone was lying, It would be the people who fed him information that was later found to be false. Or was it found to be false or just unprovable? If you use that same argument for anything else, Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi talking yesterday on Hillary's podcast about they believe Trump and Putin collaborated the Capitol building, storming of the Capitol building on January 6th. What a bunch of asshattery. That's fuckery at its best. Yet they can say that. They have the right to say that. As stupid as it may be. I say the Constitution never said you didn't have the right to say what you wanted. It said you, but it also never guaranteed that people didn't have to think you were an idiot for saying it. Yeah, the Russia thing again. And we talked about that a little earlier. And now, does that claim, is that anything but a conspiracy theory? No. There's no proof. It's unsubstantiated. But they want to call for another investigation of Donald Trump. Trump's probably like, whatever. Idiots. Oh, but Putin's probably offering him a place to live in Russia. That's where you'll find Trump living. Yeah. But Trump says that he believes the election was fraudulent. Biggest liar in the history of America. And what did he actually do that was impeachable? What's the impeachable offense? Because it's not sedition. He didn't act seditiously. It's not insurrection. What is it exactly he just got impeached for? You got a guy that won at least 74 million votes in the United States. Those people, you can say, well, they weren't all Trump supporters. Well, they certainly weren't cabbage supporters. They voted for Donald Trump. At least 74 million that we know of, almost 75 million. So 75 million people mean nothing to this Congress, to this new president. It's interesting stuff. All right, butthurtism. There you go, Iowa. Yep, Doug, nothing. Orange man bad. Duh. Matt's got it spot on. I didn't agree with everything that President Trump did, but he sure as hell did better than the last several presidents we've had in the past. That's the truth. I just watched a little news clip today on just the foreign policy accomplishments of Donald Trump. These people that say he didn't accomplish anything, they aren't paying attention. They're motivated by their passion, by the dictates of their opinions, as opposed to the facts. We'll leave it there. Talked enough tonight. Gone 15 minutes overtime when I wasn't even sure if I'd make it the whole hour. So, yeah, I hope regular right-wingers learn how to do bloody knuckle politics. Probably not. You're going to see the quickest dismantling of any previous president by this new administration over the next few weeks. Bing, bang, boom. Eradicate him. Make sure he can no longer run for office. That's the intent of it all. Eradicate him. And who's in charge of that? About 17 votes in the Senate. So you get basically 17 people in Congress that can determine whether or not Donald Trump can run for office again. There you go. Versus 75 million who voted for him. If you see a vote go against the will of the people on this, it's very knowing. All right. Thanks, Rock and Rhonda. Hey, Susie Q. Much love to you, too. Nice to see you. All right, folks, we're going to wrap it up. It's been a good night. Thanks for being here. Be here again. I think we'll push for tomorrow night again. Not sure if we'll have a live show or if I'll record. We'll see what tomorrow's like and how the day goes. And that's all I got. Thanks for being here. Thanks to you for giving me your time. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. If you're not a member of my channel, hit the join button down below. Check out the membership levels. $2, $5, $15 are the 3 different levels. We haven't done much with the memberships in the last week because of my COVID run-in. So take a look at it. If you want to support this this effort by becoming a member, please do. Hit the join button and you'll see what you can do, what your options are. Okay, guys, have a good night. I'm going to sign out and go calm my brain down. I feel it. It's just pulling on my head right now. So thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. It's good to be doing better. So have a good night. And remember, as Doug reminded us better than I did, when fascism comes to America, it'll come wrapped in the American flag. All right, guys. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.